eyeballs. You're here, Anna. That's insane.
All right, here we are. We are insane.
We are
We're all
insane. We wouldn't
musicians
be
in
here
one
if we
way or
weren't.
another. All right, let me start this. This is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, Worldwide TV Network, and iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So this is a special show because friends are in a studio, a live studio, and it makes it interesting. So I got to start with ladies first because I adore this lady. I think she's one of the best women performers in the world, one of the best disc jockeys in the world. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
Well, my name is Ashlee Williss, singer-songwriter first, who turned into a DJ. I go by DJ Badash. And yeah, I mean, I'm traveled the world, you know, doing as much as I possibly
with
can.
A lot of great people.
And,
With your band.
I also have a band, a rock and roll kind of burlesque type band called Concrete Kiss. So yeah, I dabble in a lot of things. Original music I'm about to put out, some DJ stuff, some singer-songwriter stuff, and then as well as my rock band, Concrete Kiss.
And I love all the stuff that you do. I just like you as a person. You know, you're very talented.
Thank you.
And then, all right, so there's two strange guys at the end who we have no idea who they are. All right, Kenny, start off with you. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
I want to go back to Concrete Kiss.
Yeah.
What a name.
Oh, thank you. It's quite a show as well.
Oh man, I'm gonna be investigating.
Okay.
You know, there's a thing called the internet.
Yo, yeah.
I'll know everything about you very soon.
Good.
Where did I come from?
All right, Kenny, tell us who you are. Where'd you come from?
Came from Mars, first of all. It's a planet up there. In a nutshell, I mean, little kid playing outside, nothing to do. There was nothing to watch on TV, so we were always outside. And my mom yelled for me and my brother to come in the house, and I thought I was in trouble, of course, which I usually was. And on this black and white RCA TV set were four guys dressed in suits and long hair, electric guitars and drums and bass, and you know, they started singing, and I'm like bouncing off the walls. I'd never seen anything like this in my life, and I'm like, all I knew at that moment, I realized that was going to be my purpose in life, but I didn't even know what those words meant. I mean, I was feeling it, didn't understand. I wasn't connecting the dots yet, but I was just blown away, and I'm flipping out. I just knew I had to be part of it. And I said, Mom, who are these guys? And she said, it's the Beatles. It was the Ed Sullivan Show. So, so I immediately go, being 10, I say, well, call them up. I want to play with them. I want to be in that band. And forget about the piano lessons. It's drums now, and I want to play drums. So, you know, of course, she didn't call them up. I started my own band, the Alley Cats, and we played Beatles music. But the trip is, 50 years later, I get called to do this CBS special called The Night That Changed America, honoring the Beatles for that Ed Sullivan Show, and I now get to play with the remaining Beatles, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, 50 years later. So it's kind of like...
What an honor that is.
Yeah, so it's kind of like dreams come true. But if you connect the dots, who I am is just driven by passion and realize what my purpose in life is. I made some changes. I mean, I got into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra because there was no school. I'm so old, there was no school of rock when I was a kid. I grew up in a little town of 3,000 in New England. So I went to college and studied classical music, and I just rose to the top. And I turned down the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. The point of that is I followed my heart, and I turned down certainty for complete uncertainty, which was like, go back home and start practicing. And it was 4 years later that I got my big break with John Mellencamp, and then eventually became a successful session drummer player, and just keeping all the balls up in the air. Played on.
And I'm going to come back to that session player in a minute. The one and only.
Yep.
There's only one Leland around. Leland, it's good to see you in the studio. Talk about how you started.
Well, I'm tickled to be here, and to go back just slightly, when we got to do John Lennon's 75th birthday together at the Garden, which was amazing. I grew up in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, and I started as a classical pianist when I was 5 years old. And when I got into junior high school, I kind of went in. I took to it. I won, like when I was 8 years old, I won awards from the Hollywood Bowl and things like that. But I was really classically driven. But when I went into junior high school, I went in with the attitude I was going to be the piano player. And the teacher said, look, we got a ton of kids that play piano. We need a string bass player. And I said, well, let's see. And he pulled an old K upright out of the back room, put it in my hands, plucked one note, felt that vibration, and I said, sold. You got me. And I started studying upright, but I was really classical and jazz at that point. And it really wasn't until the Beatles hit that I suddenly went, I need an electric bass. Because my hands were always bleeding trying to compete with other guys in the band. But I was always in bands. But my life took a bunch of different turns, and when I went through college in the 60s, I was always in bands, but my real aptitude was in science and in art, and I was studying to be a medical or a technical illustrator.
Wow.
But I was in a band in 69 called Wolfgang, and our drummer, his name was Bugs Pemberton, and he came over from England, and he was in Jackie Lomax and the Undertakers in England, who were rivals of the Beatles at the time in England. And he had a friend named John Fishback who owned Crystal Recording Studios here on Vine Street, and he did like Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life and all the early Stevie stuff. And he would hang it at our rehearsals, and he brought a friend of his who had just gotten back into America at that point. It was James Taylor. And James came to our rehearsal, and we hung out for a day. James got offered a gig at the Troubadour, and remembered me because they didn't have a bass player for the gig. And he told Peter Asher, who was managing him, he said, I heard the guy we need. And they tracked me down, and I thought I was doing one gig, and 50 years later, I'm still on the gig.
Isn't that great?
I mean, it's just weird, how just
Yeah.
things happen in your life. And the thing is, you have to go with your gut. Like Kenny said, you go with your guts. And, like my parents were going, you're leaving college, kind of thing, after 5 years and still no degree, but, loving school. I could have been a professional student. I really love.
Talk about this. Talk about playing at the Troubadour. What memories do you have?
Well, the first time we did 2 gigs there, the first show we played there, you could have driven a truck through it and not hit anybody. Then right after that, James was on the cover of Time magazine. We went back, and the fire marshal was closing it because they sold out the rafters and the balconies and everything. But it was an unbelievable ride. The strangest part of it for me, though, was I think that the night we played, Del Shannon was at the gig, and he was producing an artist, Brian Hyland, who did Itsy Bitsy Teensy Weensy Yellow Polka Dot Bikini back with a great novelty tune. He saw that gig. And next thing you know, that's the first album I did was Brian Hyland. It was my first studio gig. And all of a sudden, James hit. And man, we were, Russ Kunkel and myself and Danny Korchmar. Let me say that the thing that really helped my career was Peter Asher, who was producing it, insisted that our names appear on the album. Where when you look at the days of the Wrecking Crew, you could be listening to Sinatra or the Mamas and the Papas, the Association, the Beach Boys. People didn't know it was the same musicians on all of those things because they got no album credit, where we had album credit. And all of a sudden, with the advent of the singer-songwriter movement because of James, Jackson Browns and Linda Ronstadts and all these people that came out of that, they would look at James's records, see our names, and go, they worked good for him. Let's get them. But having never really been in the studio before, we were learning on the spot, what the studio was. I'm great at a gig, but the studio was a whole other animal. So we really had to pull up our bootstraps and go for it. And it was like guerrilla recording, kind of thing.
So Ashley, here's what I talked to. This goes into the movie aspect of things. The Wrecking Crew, one of the best bands. I call them band session players. If you've never seen the documentary, How Ravens, you got Carol, the bass player. Carol, one of the best bass players ever, besides
Carol.
Carol Kay, absolutely.
But it was an honor to talk to Hal Blaine, the Sun's director, and we did
Tedesco.
it. We did it at the drum store over there, and it was just an honor because, again, what you just talked about, people not getting credit. I miss albums where you can see people who wrote songs, you're a songwriter, seeing these things and going, wow, I want to meet that person one day. And then so when I went to the ASCAPS Awards, it was like the happiest people I ever saw in my life were songwriters because people were playing the songs. Right, Kenny? It's one of those things where you acknowledge these people, and I'm like, you walk down the street, they would never know who they are, but you know their songs.
Yeah, you know Elton, but you sure don't know Bernie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It used to be when there was, I swear I was in random notes in Rolling Stone every month. Every month. There'd be, we'd be doing, there'd be some session, you and I were in it probably many times, Billboard. There was always a photographer show up. Our pictures would be there, and definitely the album credits. And now we're invisible unless, you really almost need somebody to take over and shove our faces and names out there for people to even know, because it doesn't take long to be invisible. Now, in our circle, everybody knows who we are, and those are the people who hire us. But it's just interesting. It's a whole
All right,
different
so Kenny, you got some great stories. You got a fantastic mind, too, which people, unless they've met you, don't know. So talk about a couple people you played with, and then tell that beat that we all know from John Cougar.
Well, I can go the beat first. The Jack and Diane drum solo. Yeah. Well, I fell into that because I was fighting for my career at that moment, because when I first got in John's band, I got the big break. In 5 weeks, we were recording at Cherokee with Steve Cropper, who's a great songwriter. And in 2 days of recording, I got fired from the band. I thought I was getting fired from the band because basically I didn't have the skill set to make records. Lee's and my job as a session player is one thing: get the goddamn song on the radio, be a #1 hit.
And as you were saying, you were always thinking, this is great, but you were always looking towards the next
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Well, I'm a hyperachiever, which means that you're never happy. When Jack and Diane went to #1, I was at the Chateau Marmont, where I'd gotten fired from the record 2 years prior on that first record, and I will never forget. I didn't think about it then, but I go back and connect the dots. I was excited for like 2 seconds, and I went, oh my God, how am I going to do that again? I don't even know the song. When's he going to write it? How am I going to come up with this? I'm not #1. The song's it was that whole mentality. It's like a running back, he gets a touchdown. It's like, oh, I got to do it again. And I've gone even deeper with that. See, it's exhilarating. There's a chemical reaction that you get from performing or being successful, and it's a high. So I think I've been chasing after that natural, organic high in me my whole life. It's like I did it with sports. It's exciting. That's why I can't say no to anything. When people call me up, it's like it's exciting. But the bottom line is, that song, it wasn't like I was home crafting it. I had to come up with it on the session, thinking I was going to get fired.
Because you only had one chance.
One chance, that was it. I'd been fired 2 years before. The freaky part is when I walked into the session at Criteria in Miami, this producer had this metal box and went, Don, what's that? He goes, oh, this is a Lin 1 drum machine. And I'm going, drum machine? Don't they replace drummers? And I'm like, and he says, yeah, and the Bee Gees are using it next door. It was like 1981, so that was really a smart move to have that kind of relentless, sound and precision and rhythm. And I went, well, what are you doing with it? And he went, well, we're going to use this on this song that we're having trouble getting on the record called Jack and Diane. I went, what? I'm going to be replaced by a machine? I grabbed that thing, grabbed the manual, and went, I'm going to be doing this programming. And I programmed the basically was I was playing that on the drums, but I programmed it and then I gave it back to them. I'm sitting in the lounge going, what the F is happening? Is this the future of the drummer? Anyway, I get summoned in, and Mellencamp in his very delicate voice, Aronoff, we need a drum thing here after the second chorus, solo or something. Now, what a lot of people don't realize, I think the guy who was suggesting that was Mick Ronson from Bowie.
Really?
He was there.
Wow.
And, they brought Waddy in. John was bringing people in. The Waddy story's hilarious. He was the prime of his wildness. And anyway, so I'm in there, and I'm excited because now I'm going to be on the record, but I'm terrified thinking, this is it. This is my career. I save the song, I save my career. I mess up, I'm out. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do that now I finally have learned 2 years later how to serve this artist, how to serve the music. It's not about me, it's about we. It's about the band, it's about the song. When you're practicing like we did and like you did, it's all about you. It's about you. You're learning, how am I doing? How do I sound? How do I look? How's my rhythm? How's my groove? But when you get into a session thing and a band thing, it's about the band. It's about the whole thing. So anyway, I thought, what is going to come out of those speakers? It's going to grab everybody's attention. Out of the little car stereo speakers, any little speaker. And that's why I came up with boom, blam. And I stopped. And I look in the control room, they're all going, and I'm thinking, still got my job.
Yeah.
So I hit a dead end. But eventually, I'm heading back out there, and I'm going, at 50 feet from the drum set, I'm going like, my God, dude, this is it. This is it. 40 feet, what are you going to play? 30 feet, I don't know. 20 feet, dude, there's the drums. What are you going to play? I don't know. I get to the drum set, I look at it, I look at them, I look at it, and I'm like, and all of a sudden, something popped in my head. I instead of reinventing the wheel, I just took the same beat I was playing, which was the beat I programmed. Instead of starting on one, I started on the end of one. Boom, blam, one, which is instead of boom, blam, duh, duh, duh. It was just displaced, and I'd be like, if you had a room full of furniture, and you go, this sucks, and you got two choices, get rid of the furniture or rearrange it. Mm-hmm. I rearranged it. And the rest is history. And then, that was it. I didn't think anything else. So all I knew was I wasn't fired. And then they put Hurt So Good on the radio, and John's goal was to blow any song off the airwaves that came before us and any song that came after us. So the drums were really loud. And so Hurt So Good is on the charts. It's at number two. And Eye of the Tiger and Ebony and Ivory by McCartney and Michael Jackson were keeping us from number one. And this is back then, man, on the top 100, if you were anywhere in the top 10, the whole world would hear you and see you. It wasn't like there were 80 charts. There were two main charts, singles and the album charts, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is not like, I'm on 10 number one hits. Well, what chart are you talking about? This was the chart. And so Jack and Diane, Hurt So Good started to slide down a couple notes. They released Jack and Diane. Jack and Diane goes flying, goes to number one. And Hurt So Good stayed right there in the top 10. So I went from basically shit to Shinola.
So here's the thing about that.
Amazing.
So I was a disc jockey at that point.
You were? Really?
Yes, I was.
I thought you were 25 or something.
I turned 60 last week. But the thing about this
Happy
is,
birthday.
You're still young.
Wow.
because I didn't do what you guys did. I was watching from
What'd
a
we
distance.
do? He didn't do
crying
anything.
for
He
them.
didn't even drink coffee.
And that's why he looks so good.
I know.
I'm
And that's
I'm
why I
19
wear
I'm
glasses
19.
and cover up.
But think about this, and Leland, think about this. Ashley, you're playing a lot of their songs when you were doing your gigs, and even when you've been doing virtual stuff. I love seeing what you're about to play because you're just creating your own thing.
Absolutely.
And it works.
DJing is funny because just like you were saying, drumming, you have no idea what you're going to play. When I'm DJing, I have no idea what song I'm going to do next. It's just on the fly, everything. Hope it sounds good. And most of the time it does.
That's cool.
That's the skill.
Yeah.
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 But talk about when you were playing, when you would go outside the country. What were those gigs like for you?
As a DJ?
Yeah.
I mean,
Because you have dual roles.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're traveling. One thing I will say as a DJ, it's a lonely life. You're flying everywhere alone. You're, you know, you're playing for everyone alone. You're meeting but the experience is incredible because, I mean, how else are you gonna get an opportunity to fly around the world and play at festivals or like, I mean, I've played for princes on their private island for, I mean, just the things that I've done as a DJ has been insane.
List some of them. Tell me. I want to hear this. Give like three of the. One is what you said. What's another one?
Well, I guess festivals, country festivals are amazing. I'm like the only female DJ that does these country music festivals.
Like literally country music festivals.
Like Stagecoach. And...
Oh, I know Stagecoach. I played there.
Okay.
So, but when you do the DJ stuff, this is all like people dancing and grooving, and so they had to eventually bring that into that platform to get, you know, to be relevant.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because I come from the live music space as a singer and musician, and I love DJing. I don't ever want to quit, but I will say
you're still a singer-songwriter.
But yeah, so when I'm on this stage DJing, the energy is insane. I love it, but my heart is like I want to be out there on the mic and singing with a band, and so that's why I could not ever give up the live music stuff.
But you have both.
I have both.
So
yes.
you got the best of all
Can't you-
worlds.
But what about if you DJ stuff and play your guitar?
Sometimes I do.
The mic up, just.
I do.
She's
It
got-
depends on
You know,
what's
Kenny,
appropriate.
She's
you
got
know?
this great photo of you, and it looks like there's like 250,000 people in the audience, and you turn around like this, and I'm like, that's a great photo, and you're having so much fun.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where it was. I think it was outside the U.S., but I was like, this is a great photo. Whoever took that.
Oh.
But it was classic. And then, you know, even when you're doing the smaller gets, I'm like, wow, she is just great because it reminds me of what I used to do, but I didn't do what she did.
Right.
I played in all white clubs when they wouldn't allow any minorities to come in, and I was
Wow.
playing.
You
the
were
stuff.
playing in the white clubs, and they wouldn't let black people
Absolutely.
in.
I would be the only one.
So
What
cool.
city?
This was in Hartford, Connecticut.
Hartford.
Yeah.
I grew up 91, hit Mass Turnpike, take left, and you're in Stockbridge. I'm exit 2.
I was
He
there.
knows where that is because the James Taylor line.
It was interesting because I played the first hip hop album, Rapper's Delight, which really wasn't the first one, but I played that one for my all white high school. And I said, I got to be the disc jockey, or else that would be strange if I'm the only black guy. It was a
Right.
town of 7,000, 3 black families. I better be the disc jockey.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to be right. But here's the thing: I was playing what you guys were playing on, and I was watching the charts because my goal was to get the Kiss FM
Oh yeah,
in
Kiss, of
Hartford,
course.
Connecticut.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Howard Stern was at
Yeah.
he was further down up, but then he was another station.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was coming up at that point, and we were like, it's about R&B and it's about rock and roll, and the two worlds never really crossed over unless you're in the studios.
What about like Stevie Wonder? Kind of crossed over with that, right?
Well, you did because all the musicians got along, but when it came to the charts, they
Yeah.
were separate. That's what was really
Really?
weird. Yeah, they were always separate.
So what about all the Supremes and all the Detroit?
well, they were
stuff?
R&B.
They weren't popping up on the pop charts
No, they were
on the
separate.
top 100.
Well, the top 100 they did, but
Oh.
they weren't played in rock and roll things. So only
Oh,
when
yeah.
The formats were really conservative.
absolutely. We don't think this will play here.
Oh, of course.
You know,
Oh yeah.
you know,
oh,
if
yeah.
you go
yeah,
back
the
to
driving
that.
audience.
It's not
Who's
our
driving?
audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not our
It was one
crowd.
of those things like that. But talk about the studios again, because again, you're that songwriter, but you, like I said, you do double and triple duty, and you're that woman. So when I'm watching you, if you're doing something for like Net Geo, and I'm like, wow, I hope they understand who they have behind that mic, who's playing,
Thank
because unless you get a chance to tell the story, what
People
you
don't
guys are
know.
doing, they don't really know.
I think, why don't you just like get a drum groove going and then just be the solo artist up there, slip in a couple.
Right. I'll
You know what
have
I'm
you
saying?
come do the drums.
Oh, dude, you know what? My goal was to play with Eminem. I thought I want to be the rock guy, and he has a real live, kick-ass rock drummer playing behind him. I thought that would be a way for me to stay relevant, but he never called me.
Oh.
Not yet, but it still could work
After
because
this
Well, when
interview,
I
you
was
will.
thinking about it was when the scene had really was like, you know, when
because your
Eminem was.
mind is out there, Kenny.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Out there
thinking
for
fast
sure.
forward. You know.
Yeah, he's a futurist.
I know, I can.
You see what I'm saying? When
I
like
do.
when what was it?
8 Mile.
8 Mile came out, and I'm like, I'm there. I want to, and I think he's a genius. You know?
Absolutely. You
Ge-
know,
absolute
him and
genius.
Dre together, and
Oh,
now,
Dre,
like I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
I think of going back to when you're in that studio. How many studio albums have you played on? You played on what? How many Grammy and winning studio albums?
I had to come up with a number.
There's
and
over
it's
220?
300 million sold. I'm on. But in all fairness, 3 of them went over 40 million. Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell 2, 2 Celine Dion
Hans.
albums, and you might have been on. Did you ever do it? Wait, what was the one
did
we did
Celine.
with Sirletic? Was that Celine Dion? Were you on that? There was some late night session.
Yeah, we did. I think it was Celine.
It was Celine Dion.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember? It was a late night.
Yeah, it was really late.
And then we did another late night because we were at Conway. And
Doing Willie.
Willie and Matt Seletic, I'm got to give it to him. He's a genius. We're in a studio and he's just not digging. Suddenly, I'm in a heavy room. He's not digging the way the speakers are sounding or something. We have all A-team guys in there. And he says we're taking a break, and they completely moved everything to the other room, which means we were recording till 2, 3 in the morning. But he held his ground, and he was right.
Man,
so
it's
you
great.
you had David Foster in there too, right?
David wasn't. I never got to work with it. You've worked with David?
When David moved to L.A. from
Canada.
Canada, I did one project with him and called everybody in town and said, use this guy. He was such a great keyboard player, and also he could take down, you know.
So this is before anybody knew
nobody
who David
knew who
was.
David was at all.
Wow.
And
I love this stuff.
we were
So-
doing. I think we were doing Brian
Love
and
this
Brenda Russell when they were still married at that point, and David was amazing. I mean, he was really amazing, and then his career went. You
So
know.
here's the thing. This goes back to another film. This is Movie Reviews and More. You get a chance on Netflix, see David Foster's
Oh, I've seen it.
documentary.
I've seen it.
Excellent.
It's excellent.
Excellent. So the Worldwide Wrecking Crew and David Foster, because you guys were playing in those bands. And then I think I was an honor when I met the Funk Brothers.
Yeah.
Because who would have known? They
Yeah.
played on every single Motown hit.
Oh, dude.
And Bob Babbitt was a really dear friend of mine
Yeah.
too. you know,
I
so-
played with him in
Yeah.
when he moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
He was a white bass player. He
I met him.
You have? Bob Babbitt. It was Bob Babbitt and Jameson.
Ian Jamerson,
Yeah,
they pretty much dominated
I
all
mean,
that.
and there's a new documentary. It's come out. I think. I don't know if it's not on Netflix yet. It's Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah. Ray Parker Jr.
Ray Parker's
I'm waiting for that.
Now, this is a heavy one because I mean he was just a kid in Detroit and he was playing with Stevie Wonder when he was 17.
Well, Kenny, let me tell you about this. Every day, I'm playing the instrumental of Ray Parker Jr. on radio because it's such kick-ass stuff. Actually, you would love playing this stuff because he had that funky bass
Yeah.
going on with
He
everything.
was amazing, but a heavy controversial thing was he got caught up and got beat up by policemen in the Detroit riots when the whole black-white issue was going on, and he got beat up, because everybody was just swinging clubs and they didn't know who he was, and he kept a very positive attitude. I think that's the underlying thing that is heavy in that documentary. How he could have easily gone down the rabbit hole of, and then he wouldn't have been who he was.
Absolutely.
It's an incredible story. The little I know about it.
The great times, it's good to see all of the rockumentaries coming out. They're all good. I look forward to seeing a movie on the Eagles. I look forward
yeah.
to seeing, the one I'd like to see the one on Rick James, who would play Rick James.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
talked to Leon Robinson about that. I'm like, you should play Rick James. You've done
Yeah.
the Temptations. You've done,
Yeah.
all this stuff.
This is a good one right now. David Crosby. Have you seen that one?
haven't
Oh,
seen
yes.
David.
Wow, you're gonna love it. It's Laurel Canyon, and
That's good.
It just what it ties into, of course, is Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Byrds, the whole scene up on Laurel Canyon, and David is very, very, very honest about. He was a difficult person.
Yeah, absolutely. And our band, the Immediate Family, Denny Tedesco, who did The
Ooh,
Wrecking Crew,
love
is
him.
doing a movie about us.
Yeah,
We're
he
in the
is?
middle of a documentary film right now,
Oh, good.
which will probably be out early, maybe the first third of next year. we would have been earlier, but with the pandemic hitting all of a sudden. But we've been working on it now for the year.
Oh, I look forward to doing it because he's a great director.
Oh yeah, I mean the Wrecking Crew was incredible, and this isn't the Wrecking Crew, but it's basically the guys who have been there since 1970, and his whole attitude was, look, his father was the greatest studio guitar player ever, Tommy Tedesco, but he said, look, the Wrecking Crew was together for 12 years,
Right.
pretty much. They never left the studio. They had they did the records, but that was it. Hal would maybe go to Vegas and play with, Sinatra or something. He would get marquee billing.
You had Glenn Campbell come out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's still like a hidden secret. I want
Yeah.
more people to see what you guys were doing in the studio because it's like a lost art.
Yeah. Well,
Actually, you ever played in a studio?
Yeah.
Talk about what that experience is like for you.
I love being in the studio because you can perfect everything, and I'm a perfectionist to a fault. But with the live element, it's different. Live, it's on the fly. Like sometimes you mess up and you just gotta go with it.
Yeah.
But with the studio, you can sit and write and perfect and brainstorm with one another, and just create magic.
It's a double-edged sword, when you're in the difference, because I've had people ask me, which would you prefer, live or studio, if you had to make a choice? And I always go live. That's just, to me, it's playing for people, is it? Where if I play a note, it's like you just said, that note's over.
Yeah.
It's done. In the studio, they can sit and scrutinize that note for an hour or a day or a week. And I don't live in that. I love making records, but boy, man, there's nothing like walking out on the stage. And I don't care if I'm playing for 200,000 people or 30 people. It's still that relationship is what the magic is.
Leland, give me 10 bands that you played with off the top of your head.
Oh, God. Well, Phil Collins, James Taylor, Toto, Lyle Lovett, Hall & Oates.
That's 5.
Oh, Christ. This is where I always choke. I'm just trying to remember. America. Oh, God, I'm going
Because there's so many.
Willie.
Well, I've worked on about 2,600 albums.
God.
Wow.
So, and it's all, there's always then you go to Vince Gill and Reba McEntire and Susie Boggess and, Marty Stewart, and go down that whole direction of music. Or they go to the Christian one with Stephen Curtis Chapman and Avalon and all the groups out of contemporary Christian. But, I got to work with Andy Griffith. I sat there pinching myself the whole time in the studio going, it's Andy. Got to work with Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers, and I was I cut my teeth on playing along with Righteous Brothers albums. So, it's this amazing community. And I've always just been grateful to be part of the community.
Kenny, you're next. 10 bands off the top of your head.
All right. Well, Mellencamp, obviously. I'm going to go live. Mellencamp, Bob Seger, Smashing Pumpkins, John Fogerty for 26 years on and off, Joe Cocker for 10 years, Melissa Etheridge on and off 10 years, Michelle Branch. I wanted to do something that was a little different. I'd already done her videos and her records. Chickenfoot, which is the two guys from Van Halen, and me and Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony from Van Halen, the genius Joe Satriani on guitar, and then I was playing drums because Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers couldn't do it. Let's see, how am I at? Am I at?
You did pretty good.
Yeah.
You did
You're done good,
but he
son.
saw it coming.
I saw it come, but I just went chronological.
No, that's
I've
good.
been asked this question, so I was like, okay, just start from 1980. I did. You know what I did that I just thought of it? I did a tour with Richard Thompson.
Oh, great.
Now, John Mellencamp was a big fan of Richard Thompson. This guy, was it Fairport Convention?
Fairport Convention.
Genius guitar player. Nobody plays like him. And he's got this English-Irish thing. You got accordion and violin doing these Celtic type songs. We would rockify it. Anyway, we did Shoot Out the Lights, which was one of his big songs, and Mellencamp did it, and we were huge fans, and the manager knew it, and who's the drummer? Oh, damn, he's an English drummer. I think he played with Mary Chapin Carpenter. So, anyway, I get a call. They're coming to Bloomington, Indiana, where we live. I'm like, I got the ticket. I'm ready. I want to meet Richard. And all of a sudden, I get a call from the manager, like maybe 6 days before. Said, the drummer slipped and fell in the shower and broke 2 ribs. Could you do the rest of the tour? And the first show's in Bloomington, Indiana. I may have only had 3 days to learn this stuff. And I write everything out, every single note. Talk about a stickler. Every drum note, every tempo, every cue.
That's not easy to do.
His charts are like insane.
They're stupid. Nobody does it like. It's like I'm just totally, because I have a crap memory, and so how am I going to learn all those songs and they have odd meter, and so I'm all like you, really a perfectionist. Like, oh my God, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake. So all that classical training. This is where the classical training comes in. I can write everything out.
Wow.
It's like literally like crazy. And it's me just being, I have a crap memory. So I write it all out. So I had charts up there and followed along.
Ash, what was it like when you created your band? What were you looking for? Because you actually came in and then you kind of turned it into yours.
Yeah, so with Concrete Kiss, it was originally just a live, it was a rock and roll burlesque show that I got brought in as just the lead singer. And then a year into it, it became my band because I was the show. And then, so the girl who created it and I became partners, and all the songs, all the players, all the choreography, the dancers, everything was just a, collaboration between us. And she loves rock and roll, and so we started out, it was all just female covers, rock covers of female lead singers. And then, yeah, when I took over, it just became, any cool song, but it was very much dance driven as well. So the show was incredible. We were climbing up, I was climbing on the rafters and swinging from things, singing upside down and jumping on people. And
But people loved that.
oh my God, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Which one are you?
The singer. If there's a mic, it's me.
Oh, I didn't see any mics.
Just asses.
I just saw asses, which happens to be my middle name. Oh, but not in, I'm an asshole. Just
That's a whole other discussion.
yeah.
Leland, your book. Talk about what you're creating, because I didn't know about the documentary, but talk about all those things that you travel around and make people giving the middle finger.
Well, it started on Phil Collins's first final farewell tour in 2004. Excuse me. They hired a bass tech for me for the tour, and I've never had a tech in my life. I've always done my own gear on every tour I've been on. So all of a sudden, this guy came, and he came off of a tour where I think the bass player had like 10 basses and wanted new strings every night and all this crap. So this guy came in ready, primed, ready to go. And he said, so what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And I said, oh, nothing. I really don't need anything. I said, just, I guess, put my crap on stage and I'll tune and change my own strings if they ever need it. And so we were really good friends, but he ended up being like a gopher on the tour. And so at the end of the tour, there was talk that Phil was going to retire. And I thought, we had like 120 people on the road together. And I thought, I may never see a lot of these people again because they were from Europe, they were from all over the States. So I thought, I'm just going to put together a little photo section for myself of everybody. First cat I walk up to is Chinner, my bass tech, and he's working at his laptop. And I say, hey, come on, Chinner, give me a smile. And he just flips me off at that point. And I looked at the picture and I went, oh, this is kind of cool. So I went and got Phil as manager, everybody in the band, everybody in the crew, bus drivers, truck drivers, everybody. And I tucked it away, and that was it. It was about 120 pictures. Then a couple of years later, I went out with Toto and decided to do the same thing, got up to about 300 pictures. It took on a life of its own at that point, and it got up to 12,000 photographs. And I've got everybody from Jack Nicholson to Gwyneth Paltrow to Bernie Williams from the Yankees.
Wow.
Winos I find on the street. I go to the
See,
NAMM
Kenny,
show.
there's hope for you.
Oh, Kenny's in. Kenny's
You mean
definitely in it.
as the wino?
Yeah, Kenny's
No,
in it. But
Many
so with the pandemic hitting, I suddenly went, now's the time for it, and got together with a guy, and we've finished the book. It's being printed right now, and I'll be taking delivery at the end of November.
Good for you.
I've got a website going that I'm creating now for sales, and I'm doing it all myself.
Dude, this is so good because, everybody can write a book, but this one sort of sticks out.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean,
What are you gonna call- what's it called?
It's called Everybody Loves Me. And the cover of it is just kind of me smiling, but when you flip the book over, my hand's on the backside flipping you off.
Oh, you have to. That's
Oh no! I mean, it's all thematic. It's not just photo after
Yeah.
photo. It goes through all kinds of stuff, and there's some cool stuff. But it's one of these things that if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would never have done it because I would have been too busy.
yeah.
Great.
But suddenly the time opened up, and I think we need something to make us smile at this time in history. And this book, the few people that have seen the whole layout, just they're howling, they're laughing with it. I mean, it's really fun, and I just want some fun in life right now.
It'll make you giggle.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean,
it'll make
I've
you-
used it. I used it as my screensaver on my laptop. All these pictures, and I made the mistake a few times of taking my laptop to the studio, and it would start running the screensaver, and people would not want to work. They'd want to see who's coming up next
That's
on
funny.
it, because it's all kinds. I mean, you'll recognize tons of people in there, and it's really a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of it. And I just hope, and I'm just gonna social media the crap out of it and talk to all these companies like DW is going to put it on their website, and
Dude,
all
I'll
these
help
things.
promote it because I
Yeah.
could, if there's some way I can do that.
No, I'm going to be hitting on you like
Dude,
crazy.
you should because I'm building all kinds of stuff right now, and anything I can do to promote you, you're my hero.
And speaking of that, Kenny, what's going through that brilliant mind of yours? What are you working on?
That's why I'm wearing glasses. You don't want to see what's going on in my mind. I'm still a little stunned watching this concrete kiss thing. It's like, woo! Okay. Well, what I'm working on, it's interesting what Lee was saying, like, because of the pandemic, I'm insanely busy because I don't know how to say no. And I just had a meeting about how I need to, like, really focus on what my goals are because I got to simplify and focus on the things I really want to. So, okay, so I have this speaking career I started developing, about 5 years ago. I have an agent, and it's way more complicated than it sounds. First of all, it takes time, like anything, grapes in a bottle to make wine or become a great musician, a great athlete. It just takes time to develop skills and present a show that has some depth and meaning and takeaways and messages, and not just get up there. I don't want people to, when I'm done speaking, go, man, you're a good drummer. No, I want to hear, dude, you just inspired me.
Exactly.
That's what
Yeah.
I want. So, and I'm sure both of you, all of you, can relate to this. So, as a performer, we've been making people feel good. I play because it makes me feel good. And then the ripple effect affects the people around me. Like when Lee and I play, we'll look at each other, and there's that energy, especially live. I can still see it. Like, we're like, yeah. And then that, goes out to the audience, and they feel it. And there's this torrid relations between the audience and the band and back and forth. So I'm basically, told you I realized my purpose as a little kid, to play music because it made me feel good, made other people feel good, which made me feel even better. So the speaking thing is just stepping forward and doing the exact same thing, except I'm putting it in words and I'm explaining to people how I did this and what the takeaways are. They literally are going to walk out there with 4 takeaways. I want them to be able to go home and try this, try this, try this, try this. Like, for example, to realize your purpose, people sometimes go, huh? And my dad told me when I was a little kid, he said, it's a good story why he said this, but he said you should spend maybe a little more time going inward and getting to know who you are before you have these 3 relationships that you have with these 3 girls that don't know about each other. And he was. My dad was not like me. I'm hyper and crazy, and he was very even-keeled, a thinker, and he saw where I was at, and I never forgot it. And if anything resonates with you, it's because it's already in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't even, like, whatever, see ya. Mm-hmm. But if I'd been smart, I would have said, Dad, you're absolutely right, Dad. I'll get back to that in about 35 years. And so the speaking thing is a big thing for me now. And so with the pandemic, I invested in a lot of gear, and I have lights and cameras and things in my studio to be able to do virtual speaking or to record it and put it out there if for an event. and it's been a huge learning curve. And I would, like Lee said, I would never have had the time to develop in that area, and that's just opened up a whole can of worms for all kinds of things, so that's one of the things. And I mean, I wrote another book 2 years ago, and I kind of put it on the side. It pretty much goes and crushes lazy people. I mean, literally, I just crush them. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. If you're born with if you can, the lazy people, the entitled. Basically, are you living your life loud, or are you dying on the vine?
But that's relevant today. Where we
Absolutely.
Are right now.
It's always relevant.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, what I'm saying is, nobody's born successful. You make your success.
Exactly.
Now, unless you've got some serious limitations, I'm saying, and this is all ties into the teamwork and serving, everybody helping each other. If you're waiting for the shit to land in your lap, I'm the motherfucker who's going to take it from you, because I'm going after it. Mm-hmm. I'm not purposely trying to take it.
You got those people who are just hungry.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going after it. And I said, like I said, I'm not the most talented, guy in the world. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I took what I had and made something out of it. That's all.
I couldn't argue with you even more on that. Yeah. So Ashlee, when it comes to you and your guitar, what have you been thinking of? What have you been writing? Because you wrote some interesting things that you let me have a chance to listen to.
Yeah, my new stuff is not guitar based. It's electronic. So I have a producer send me a track and I top line it. Because that's been the easiest for me during quarantine, as I'm home. I have my little studio set up, and I just write over a track. But I do have, I brought my guitar as per
I wanted
you requested.
Grab your guitar. First thing off the top of your head, let me see what you come up with.
Well, your favorite song
I love that song.
is "You Only Want Me When You're Wasted."
Exactly.
So that's what I'll
Great lyric.
That's
perfect.
I only want me when I'm wasted.
Nobody wants you when you're wasted.
There you go.
See, we could do this. Could be a whole side.
I love
Exactly.
it, right?
Wait a minute. Next book.
Oh, I like it.
That's a good line.
So this one, is your favorite, and I released this years ago. It's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. At 3 a.m. you're blowing up my phone, slurring your words, asking if I'm alone. You wanna come over and stay the night. The bar's closing down and you need a ride. I said, hey, 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 you better cool it, boy. Hey, 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 I'm not your stupid toy. Hey, 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 you only want me when you're wasted. You always leave me feeling high and dry. My love's another drug you tasted. You only want me when you're wasted. I'm done wasting my time. I'm done wasting my time. I got 5 drunk and dirty texts in a row, saying things you wouldn't want your mama to know. 'Cause she'd be embarrassed if she could see the way you treat a lady like me. I said, hey, 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 you better cool it, boy. Hey, 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 I'm not your stupid toy. Hey, 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 you only want me when you're wasted. You always leave me feeling high and dry. My love's another drug you've tasted. You only want me when you're wasted. I'm done wasting my time. I'm done wasting my time. I'm done wasting my time, yeah. I'm done wasting my time. I'm done wasting my time.
Great lyrics. Oh my God.
That's great. That's great.
So appropriate and real. It's like
Certainly something that people can identify with.
Which
Yes.
one,
On both
which one
sides
are
of the
you?
fence.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
one are you?
I've been both.
I know. At the same time, maybe.
Yeah.
You
maybe.
think about it. I don't want me. Yeah, you do. I don't. Yeah, you do.
So we had a friend pass away yesterday, Eddie Van Halen. For those who know me, my favorite song is "Ain't Talking About Love." That's my song. So I can never show the picture that where me and Ed were, where we were. He wasn't wasted,
Yeah.
but we had a fun time. But it was one of those things where he was still going through his throat cancer. He was sitting in the corner. He had his bottle of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
He was still smoking, and had his ukulele. And I go, Ed, you can't be doing that, you know. I need you around. This is my go-to song.
Yeah.
And I go, this is the black guy telling you that. And he just started cracking me. He goes, Brian, there's more. He goes, there's more coming where that came from.
Well, yeah, you were smart to say it like that.
Well, it is. That's like my pick-me-up song. And I don't care. I when I first heard that was my song.
Oh, it's a
I'm
great
jumping
song.
around. The last time I saw him on tour was at Staples Center, and I was in the corner just by myself, just dancing, pretending I'm playing. I'm pretending
was
I'm
there.
Alex.
Was that where they did a couple of warm-up shows before
Yeah.
I was there? Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable.
And it's great because
It's unbelievable.
The hard part is when you know that things are bad and they're still abusing themselves through it.
Yeah.
I remember there was a great bass player in town, Chuck DeMonico, who was like the guy for all studio movies and everything.
Yep.
And he was dying of cancer. And I went up and hung with him the day before he passed with Joe Picaro and Emil Richards. And we're sitting there, and he's got the oxygen machine going, so he's breathing with it. And then he shuts it off and smokes for a while. And I said, so the machine's just basically so you can have some more smokes before you're gone. He went, yeah. I mean, he was, and you'd see it, and you're just like, it was just so heartbreaking. But that was it. And just, you just see it happening, and there's nothing you can do about
You
it.
can't save anybody. They save
No.
themselves. It's the only person that
Yes.
can save you is yourself. That's
Yeah.
it. And just so for us to observe it's very difficult and frustrating because you can't save anybody.
Yeah.
You can't.
But
as
this past-
just for fans, the thing is, you guys aren't being replaced. There is no more Wrecking Crew. That's sad. There is no
Yeah.
more Funk Brothers.
Yeah.
There is no more Prince. There's no more Tom Petty. There is no more Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sad. So when I'm seeing, Ash playing these songs, I'm thinking of these things. And I could just be sitting there admiring that because I was what she is, not the singer-songwriter, guitar player. With a band, I was the drummer.
Yeah.
When I see Mike Tyson pretending he's playing your beats, that is just classic.
I know.
And it's in The Hangover and things like this. This has got to be a great feeling. So when it comes to that, you guys have those legacies, and it's my job to make sure that people remember where everybody came from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you.
You know,
Thank you for that.
You know what? We had no idea what it was going to be like to be here.
Yeah.
We were just doing it. And I am so grateful that now I can look back and go like, I did all that and I'm still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I am
That's the
so
main thing.
grateful. This is not like over. This is not, I love it. And I'm talking about, I'm 25, but he's 37. This is like, this guy's hanging on.
Well, no, but
You're my North Star, and everybody knows it. They're going to think I'm gay for you, but I'm not. But the thing is, you're my North Star because whatever I've done as far as the time I've put into this music scene, you did it even earlier in the arena where you could be heard and on touring, like you said with James Taylor. The thing is that we were the luckiest to be born and live through this great time in
Yeah.
music and in the
really
world.
the golden age.
Yeah, the golden age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the fun thing is, when I say every day I'm playing on my Pandora when I'm cleaning and when I'm posting shows, I'm listening to America. I'm listening to Brett. I'm listening to Stevie Wonder. I was
Yeah.
made to love her. I'm listening to Jack and Diane, and I'm talking to Howard Bloom on how he went to go educate.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
again, there's only one Howard Bloom,
Yeah.
and he's connected to all of you guys.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
You know, and the thing is,
Ash,
like,
well, let me answer you real quick. In case you don't know Howard Bloom, he's the one, he represented Michael Jackson, Prince, Queen, Kiss, ZZ Top. He discovered Joan Jett, all of that, and the list goes on and on. John Cougar, he was there to guide them through stuff.
publicist.
Yes, exactly. One of the most, you know, his mind to mine is just like your mind is how I think of things. And it's an honor to talk to him because you ask him one question, he answers it exactly like it's in his book. He remembers where he was, and he will say, I didn't want to do anything with Michael. He doesn't need me. And then when he walks into the room, Michael's one of the best things that he ever did for his career, even when he was bedridden. So it's all connected, which is why I wanted to get certain people to come back in the studio because you guys are icons.
Well, that's cool. You know, yeah, it's weird. I mean, we can kind of bookend or frame out this incredible time. You know, you get the right people together, and they're going to be able to like give you basically what was going on in this incredible time in music. And with music, it all ties into humanity and what was going on in the world. I mean, you know, it touches into political stuff and all kind. Look, we're kids, right? All of a sudden, Jimi Hendrix died. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh, Martin Luther just got shot. Oh my God! Jim Morrison just died. Oh my God! Kennedy got shot. I mean, and then all of a sudden there's Janis Joplin and like, holy, you know, those songs remind you of all of that stuff. You know, the Vietnam War. I mean, that's just one little time period capsule. But it's just amazing how, you know, it's not just music.
Right.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I get this all the time as people say, God, the stuff you played on is the benchmark of my life. You know, and that's the beauty of it, where people hear songs and there was a death in their family at that song, and it means that there was a birth in the family, there was a marriage in the family, and these songs really evoke those emotions. A few years ago, we did a tour that was James Taylor and Carole King Troubadour tour, and it started at the Troubadour, but it was so successful the week we played there that we ended up doing the biggest arena tour of the year. But looking down at like 3 and 4 generations of a family all singing these songs together and holding hands and stuff, it was like so cathartic for both the band and the audience to hear all of this music. It was so deep, and it was the original band that played the original Troubadour gigs, because Carol was our piano player in the original band. And then we encouraged her to do some of her songs, and the next thing she does is Tapestry.
Oh, you didn't record Tapestry, did you?
No, I didn't. Charlie Larkey, her husband, played bass on
really?
that.
Was it all New York session people?
No, it was Cooch and Russ and stuff, but I got aced because she married the bass player. So. You know, whatever. I mean, I had the same thing with Patty Loveless. You know, I was doing Patty's things, and then she married Emery Gordy, and my gig was gone. So, you know, but it's okay. It's all okay. But the thing that I really appreciate, like with talking with Kenny all the time, and the guys of our group, is everybody's still looking that way. You see a lot of interviews with guys who talk about like what they were doing in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when their hits were and stuff. And there's a lot of nostalgic rock out there. You know, see these tours that go on.
Yeah.
And these guys are still doing songs they did 30 years ago or something, where I want to be doing songs that we just cut and be writing for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's the excitement of all of this, is really having that energy, and the momentum was there until this pandemic hit. And my most anxious thing is when we can finally open up and play live again, because that's really what that's our juice, that's our DNA. And but you want to do it safely. So whenever it's gonna be right, it's gonna be right, but you can't rush into it at this point. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff, but there's nothing like having a crowd in front of you. So.
We got about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Name 3 places that you love playing in around the world. What stadiums or arenas were there?
I'll tell you, my favorite place I've ever played was Carnegie Hall. It's absolutely the most beautiful hall I've ever been in, acoustically, and the energy. Probably Red Rocks, outside of Denver, just for the pure beauty of it. And maybe Sultan's Pool in Jerusalem, which used to be the aqueduct for Jerusalem in ancient times, and then it's now this great outdoor arena. So.
Wow. Kenny?
It's more than 3, but I'm going to hit New York City, Madison Square Garden, because I grew up, near there.
Yeah.
That make it there. Radio City Music Hall, the Beacon Theater, and then Kennedy Center Honors, heavy.
Yeah, that's deep.
That's the Super Bowl to play the Kennedy Center Honors, which I did 7 years.
Wow.
Which was huge. That's just like incredible. Lincoln Memorial, Obama's inauguration with 1 million people.
Oh, you were there? Wow.
24 artists out of 25 artists out of 27.
Wow.
Only didn't play with Springsteen and U2. And then, I mean,
There's so many.
the Forum. I mean, LA, the Forum. I mean,
Yeah.
and there is so many. Red Rocks, of course. And then, have you done the big one in Holland? The Pink Pop Festival.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like 300,000 people out
Well,
there.
it's like we did the first Rock in Rio festival, and there was like 600,000
Yeah.
people at the gig. And,
It's like,
Yeah.
so anyway, there's a tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's incredible.
Ash?
Wow, that's incredible. My biggest show was at the O2 Arena in London.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah, that was the biggest for me.
that is big. That's huge.
But my favorite was probably Seychelles, the island in off of African coast for the Prince, one of the princes.
I've never even been there.
It was incredible, and my favorite country music festival was Tortuga Music Fest in Fort Lauderdale, because they built this giant ship deck for just me, for the DJ, and I'm looking out amongst a sea of
That's
people.
the photo.
Oh, is that
That's
the
the
photo?
photo.
Oh,
That's great.
It was
That's incredible.
from my viewpoint. It
That's
was just
incredible.
palm trees, people, beach. It was just like gorgeous. So
Wow.
those are
Kind
my
of
favorites.
any gig where there's people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's really it. Kind of the location is almost secondary, man. When you're playing your music and there's faces in front of you, it's heaven.
Last time around, give your social media links so people can go in on your YouTube, especially.
Well, I've got my Leland Sklar channel. Just go to YouTube and just pull up my name, and there's about 200 some videos on it now since it started. And I'm on Facebook when I'm not kicked off. I'm usually thrown off about half the year by them. And then I'm on my website is going to be lelandsklar'sbeard.com.
Good.
Because somebody stole my name and wanted to sell it for a lot of money to me. So I
Figures.
said, screw that. I'm just going to.
And can
that's
you
where the
mention
book will be. It'll be on that.
also that documentary?
Yeah, that's there's no. I'll have connections
Working
up
title,
about that.
yeah.
It's a working project. It's going to be called The Immediate Family, is what the title of it's going to be. But
Great time.
Good.
we're-
Kenny?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on, my name, Instagram, my name, Twitter, Aronoff Official, I think, or Official Aronoff. Aronoff Official or Official Aronoff. Someone ripped me off. Facebook, I have a fan page. My main page, it tapped out like 10 years ago. People say, add me as a friend. I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're like 10 years late. And then my website's just my name, www.kennyaronoff.com. That's A-R and then on-off, A-R-O-N-O-F-F. And that's, everything's there.
Ash?
DJ Bad Ash everywhere. And any original music would be Ashlee Williss, ASHLEEWILLISS, and then Concrete Kiss for my rock band.
Yes.
Great.
And I want to thank everybody for coming in to our studio at the Mike House. It's a great place, isn't it?
This
Thank
is
you.
great.
This is gonna
You've
be
done
our
a
home
beautiful
base.
job on this place. It's
Thanks for
really
inviting
nice,
us to
man.
be in together.
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody says. I mean, and it's one of those things. It's not easy, but we do our best.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
fantastic.
but I don't want it to be the last time. So with that, gotta thank Leland, gotta thank Kenny, gotta thank Ash. This is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Woman on TV.tv, Worldwide TV Network, iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And we were talking about earlier, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.